right, TGIF everyone, welcome back for another episode of In Case You Missed It, This Week in GovTech. This week we've got two guests on to kind of break down what's happening in the world of websites and digital services. First up, we're going to interview Luke Fretwell, CEO of ProudCity. We're going to follow that with Rebecca Woodbury, the founder of the Department of Civic Things and the former Director of Digital Service and Open Government for the City of San Rafael, California. But first, let's start with Luke. Luke, thanks so much for carving some time out as a regular watcher of our series to join us as a guest.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to talk to you guys.
All right. So first question for you is just around, tell us a little bit more about ProudCity and what you're doing to work with government agencies today.
Yeah. So, ProudCity is, we're building software as a service for government that allows local governments to really focus on scaling their web and digital services. So that includes websites, online meetings, payments, and full online forms. So really making it easy for them to stand up these services and get continuous maintenance on them, and sort of separating out kind of the services part of it and really empowering them to focus on the digital delivery locally, and we handle kind of the product and the technology. So that includes, product development, and what traditionally IT does around server management and hosting and support and things like that. So, much more software as a service focus.
That's great, Luke, and thanks for joining us. You mentioned local government, but can you tell us a little bit about who you serve in the GovTech market, specifically within local government?
Yeah, so our focus is really cities, smaller cities, really, that filling that need for cities that don't have a lot of expertise or need a lot of support on kind of the product, the IT side, right? Like it's very hard for smaller cities to have a developer or have a development team to build digital services and even maintain kind of security on the hardware, the infrastructure that you need to maintain those systems, and they just don't have that. And our focus is really to provide kind of scalable, affordable software that allows them to do that and augment kind of the need to have on-site technology support. And so we focus a lot on smaller cities. We do have some counties that we're working with, mostly smaller counties that are kind of under 500,000 population. And we've supported a lot of the response recovery efforts, especially related to California, with fire. So standing up response and recovery websites that allow them to communicate with people during emergencies.
Hey, Luke, thank you for that. This is Jed Pressgrove from Government Technology Magazine. Earlier this week, you announced a, quote, certified partners initiative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about that and the problem that it tries to address.
Yeah, so right, the way that we see it is the problem is that, the government is looking for all the things from one vendor. And the reality is you can't do both of those things really well. And, those two things are services, right? Like thinking strategically about how you want to show up digitally. And that's becoming more and more important. It's not just something that you should offshore to somebody else. It's something that you should really build into the culture of your work. And that includes thinking strategically about digital, but also those communications aspects, right? Social media, and also even more with respect to the website, content design and delivery of that, thinking about structured content, making sure it's accessible, making sure that it's plain language and easy to read, and really thinking about those things and baking them in, because those are things that you have to deliver every single day. And if you're just outsourcing that to a company to come in and build that for you, and then they get the check and they leave and they kind of do some maintenance, on and have a service agreement, it's just not like within days you are, not really empowered because you don't understand the nuances of digital or content as deeply as you should. And that's really the future of, government digital delivery, is even at these small levels, for these people from the city manager to whoever's managing the website every day, the communications person, to really be well versed in those things. And, so what we're doing with that is we're bringing people in who are experts to support government, and really it should be separate from any kind of web services contract, because there's a lot of upfront work that needs to be done, and kind of training and helping people, coaching and helping people understand kind of how these things, how they should integrate this into their daily work. And then there's the product side and the technology side, which is what we're focused on. And you can't do both of those really well, especially as you're trying to scale. If you're a company trying to serve a lot of people, and you're serving hundreds of cities, it's just hard to scale that and do it effectively, because you're just one project after another, moving to the next project, and the city is just sort of like left holding everything and not really scaling it effectively, or being able to deliver digital effectively day in and day out. So really what it does for us is, we want to be able to continue to focus on providing really great software and empowering service providers to address that issue locally. And that could be some national firm, or it could be some local firm that is we see a lot of times people are like, we want to hire local, and really what you should be hiring local for is kind of that content and digital strategy, and looking for people who are very good at delivering government specific software and the nuances related to government, because as we're seeing, there's just so many things that could go wrong if you hire somebody local to manage your technology.
Yeah, I think that's great. So I'd love to learn a little bit more. I mean, we've seen this unbundling of infrastructure, right? As you've taken like legacy technology, you unbundled it. Now you can find best of breed solutions that you could procure at the edge with whatever you need. Why is now the time to unbundle the services from the tech?
I mean, part of it gets to the point, my earlier point about just, it is critical that government starts to, local governments especially, start to understand how to deploy digital strategies and the content related to that, right? Thinking about accessibility in plain language and how to deliver that, and even being empowered, and they can, right? Using the right tools, be empowered to manage and be iterative with their web services, right? If something's not working, they should be empowered with the tools to make those changes and not have to pay exorbitant amounts of service fees to come in and change that for you. They should be able to be, we're moving much more towards an agile, iterative, human-centered design world. And local governments, they need to be well versed in that, but also have those tools to be able to do that day in and day out without running up the bill or not having any money and not feeling empowered to continue to iterate and build, and they're just stuck. And so it's just more important to have that flexibility and have a cost-effective way to do both of those, right? To deliver those services. And once you learn it, right, you don't have to continue to pay for it. You're just leveling up, you're investing in yourself, and you're investing in people internally or employees internally to level up on delivering the services to their community. And then you're using technology that is built to support that. And I think that especially as younger people come into the workforce, they're expecting that, right? They're expecting to be fully empowered with product and technology to deliver those things. And they're becoming savvy with sort of digital delivery, social media, communications, and really training them to speak how to communicate effectively and deliver the content and the services is really the next step in how government's going to deliver that those services. So I think that it's really important for government to be thinking about these things and how you not sort of hire the Wizard of Oz to do all the things for you and then deliver it to you, and you don't know what's going on. And then, 24 hours when you turn on the lights of the office and log in and you're like, I don't know what to do. And you may be partially empowered, but over time you just feel constrained because you don't have the necessary tools, whether it's the inherent tools of delivery or the technology to really empower you to feel like I got this.
So like Dustin was mentioning earlier this week, you announced the Certified Partners Initiative. So how does one become a certified partner?
Yeah, I mean, we're still working through that. We've partnered with the Department of Civic Things, and Rebecca is, Rebecca Woodbury, who's the founder of that. She has extensive experience kind of working in government, working with ProudCity, working on the platform, and is, kind of an expert in all the things around digital delivery at the local level, including plain language and accessibility, structured content, and just really thinking high level about strategy, but also procuring kind of digital technologies. So we're working through that with her, but what we want to emphasize is kind of two things. One is domain expertise, right? Knowing that plain language and accessible writing or accessible content and structure, you understand that really well, because that's fundamental, especially as accessibility. We're best in class in accessibility on the software front, but at some point when you turn that over, people internally have to understand what structured content is. So, understanding kind of the delivery of plain language, structured content, accessible content is important. So vetting for that, but also vetting for how to understand the product, and if they're going to be working with people on the product, then vetting them for understanding how to use that and how to help supplement the onboarding process. Because we're still working through kind of certification, and Rebecca's kind of the pilot and helping us figure those things out. And we're taking a very iterative approach and really using a real world example to kind of help us understand that. But it's funny because I know we published this earlier this week, and y'all wrote up something last night, and we've already gotten 3 people that have emailed us about it. So we got to get to work on this, on refining the certification process.
Well, that's good to hear, Luke. I'm curious about a couple of different things. What type of partners are you focusing on for this new expansion, and who did you launch with initially?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we launched with Rebecca, and really focusing on kind of the content part, right? The content and strategy, and helping cities really understand what digital is, what are the principles of digital, the values, and how to deliver those, and best practices in human-centered design, best practices in how to write for the web, and that's where we see. There's a huge need for government to understand and have those skills, because it's hugely important for them to be able to do that more and more on a day-to-day basis. And if you couple that with really great tools, and they don't have to worry about that, and it's kind of offset, and those tools are really great to help them manage content easy or iterate on page designs and things like that. If you have really great tools, ProudCity, then you're able to do that, right? So that's really what we're focusing on. And the great thing is, to my point earlier about, localizing services, right? There's huge opportunities to localize content and digital strategy services. There's folks everywhere that, have those skills at the local level that can support that, and shifting away from this trend of or not a trend, but this need to feel like we need to localize those services and hire a local Dustin and Joe to do your website and do all your stuff for, and knowing well that they have no business doing that. And then it becomes a disaster in a couple of days, and really focusing on localizing the content, but really looking at best in breed and delivering the product and the technology. So we're excited to work with Rebecca because she's immersed herself in local government for years and is very passionate about the content delivery and the digital strategy stuff.
Yeah, that's great. And you never know, Joe and I could be like Drupal ninjas behind the scenes. So, we might hook up your website with some fixes. But thanks for that great overview, Luke. We're going to bring you back in just a moment. But now we're going to segue to Rebecca, who is one of your launch partners as a part of this new initiative, to get her take on all of this and kind of what she's doing through the Department of Civic Things. So with that, I'm going to bring Rebecca into the conversation now. Rebecca, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, happy to be here.
So first question, you've come from a background in local government. You drove a lot of, really interesting and innovative initiatives. You were one of the top 25 doers, dreamers, and drivers of technology across the country from Government Technology Magazine. So tell me a little bit about your background and journey to founding the Department of Civic Things.
Sure. So yes, I previously worked in local government for the last 12 years for the city of San Rafael in Northern California. I started 12 years ago as an intern while I was getting my master's degree in public policy. And so through that, I've had the opportunity to see local government from different departments and just different vantage points, all the way up to my last post, which was the city's first director of digital service and open government, where I oversaw IT, community engagement, data, and service design. So kind of partway through my local government career, I fell into the civic tech world really out of a desire, I would say, to drastically improve the experience of government. I have a policy background, and so it's not a technical one, but the policy analyst in me just is always searching for addressing the root cause of issues. And I kind of found my people in the civic tech world, a space that I think really shares that desire. And then I think through that work, I also fell deeply into how our workplace culture either feeds or hinders our service delivery in that regard. What underpins all of this is culture. And so, I've been working for many years in San Rafael about how we create a culture of continuous improvement, of sort of horizontal and de-siloed collaboration, and real stewardship of city services. So I launched Department of Civic Things to help more cities and towns with their digital services, as well as the culture that underpins their service delivery.
So again, thanks for joining us. But maybe you could shed a little bit more light on what services and capabilities do you provide through your company?
Sure. So I provide strategic advisory services. So this includes your overall digital services strategy as well as content strategy. So those big picture strategic services. I also help with implementation in a range of ways, depending on the needs of the agency. So I find that oftentimes agencies they lack the time and capacity to do new things, so they kick the can down the road, sometimes for years on new projects. And so, finally they get around to it, but the staffing constraints haven't changed. Those never change. And so, they aren't able to give implementation justice, really. And so implementation either doesn't go very well, or it gets really drawn out, which also doesn't go very well. And so I see it as like an extra set of hands that can play a bigger or smaller role around these implementations. And the great part is I know government. I've lived and breathed local government for the last 12 years of my life. And so I understand that world very much. I also understand the tech side of things. And so the role I can often play during implementation is one of helping set expectations correctly, translation, and also the contextualization of the work. And so it's an interesting role that I can play while I'm providing this extra set of hands to make implementation happen. And lastly, one of my favorite roles is that of coach, empowering public servants with the tools and the how the work can get done. So this includes coaching on product management, content design, plain language, and really how teams can effectively work together.
Rebecca, it's such a pleasure to have you today talking with us about all of this. Who are you serving today in local government, and who's your ideal customer?
So today I have projects on both coasts, so I'm learning a lot about time differences. I'm working with a county on a couple of projects. ProudCity and I are working on a city website right now, and in the pipeline I've got some work lined up with both small and medium-sized cities. Small governments I think are really exciting. In some ways I think they're poised to provide even better digital services than bigger ones. They're often more nimble, less bureaucratic, and the software that's available for small cities right now is really exciting. I love working with smaller government agencies who are interested in doing things differently than they've been doing them before. Learning. They have a growth mindset, or at least they want to cultivate one. I think the status quo is often a mediocre place, if not a dangerous place. And so I think my ideal customer is someone who wants to challenge it.
I love that line. I agree totally with that. And also my heart is in small cities as well. So I really hats off to you for focusing on them as an aspect of who you serve, because as we know, the vast majority of cities that are out there are smaller municipalities that are desperately in need of, services and support and technology to help them better serve their public. So I'm curious, when you look at kind of the work that ProudCity is doing with this new Certified Partners Initiative, how does that factor into your ability to accelerate scale in this wider market?
Sure. So, Luke, I think touched on this a bit. I am so excited about this partnership because it's going to allow me to do what I love without being a web developer. I love helping governments provide great digital services that are easy to use and that work for everyone, but I'm not a developer. I'm not a programmer. So as a ProudCity partner, I get to work with a software I know and I love, and focus my value add on, content and digital service delivery strategy. So I think that through this partnership, we're going to be able to attract more customers to the ProudCity platform than before, which is exciting to me because in my humble opinion, that will serve the greater good.
Well, great. What's next then for the Department of Civic Things?
This partnership. We're not only going to make great websites together. I think we're going to empower cities and towns with the great software they need and also the mindsets they need to continuously improve and to evolve in the digital age, no matter their population size.
Okay, so this is the final question, final Jeopardy, if you will. And this is actually for both of you, Rebecca and Luke. So, over the last year, a lot of things have been changing. And I'm just curious from the both of you, where do you see the future of GovTech going from here?
You want to go?
Well, I'll start so you can end with like a mic drop. You like doing that. I hope that the future of government technology is modular. I hope it's one of interconnected services and applications. But I hope that we move to a modular way that and then vendors play nice together and allow governments the choice and the freedom to use the different services and the best of breed that's out there. So I hope that it's modular.
Yeah, I think that, two things, right? Just to riff off Rebecca, I think that this modular approach that's interoperable, right? It's not one company managing everything and owning the full stack of services from a web perspective. It's like the engagement part, the payments part, the website part, the notifications part, like all these things, I think that what we're going to have is a reckoning on companies doing those things really well, and then plugging into government modularly. So being very interoperable and being okay with other companies plugging into your platform and being a true platform that allows for that, right? We see that with GitHub, Slack, Salesforce, all these things. It's just easy to do it. And you don't have to pay anybody at that company to help you do it. You just click a couple buttons and it happens, and making it very interoperable. And I think that, the other aspect of it is, and I think we're slowly getting there, but it's, being embracing open technologies, open source, open APIs and data. That's the future, right? And I think that you're starting to see that more and more. And I think that, between being fully open source, which is what ProudCity is, and embracing kind of opportunities to be interoperable and modular, accepting that modular ecosystem, whether it's technology or partners like Rebecca, is the future. And, that's the kind of democracy that I'm going to leave my kids.
Well, on that note, Luke, Rebecca, thanks for joining us and sharing a little bit about both of your organizations and this partnership. We look forward to following it and the work that you're all going to do to make government better. Join us next week, again, on In Case You Missed It, to learn a little bit more about the week that was in GovTech. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.